Hey guys, Nick here, and today we will be seeing if Rick will go through with his deal and give Negan the bat as long as he helps with the bridge, or if all of this is a ploy to either A, see if Negan botches it up and gets himself killed, or if Rick's truly just gonna kill him. This is part 22, What If Rick Spared Shane, the remake. Now on to the construction of the bridge. As I mentioned before, even though all of the saviors, and I mean all of them, were killed, no one truly died in all the other communities, well, bar Jadis and her people, but they kind of did it to themselves, especially in this scenario. But the bridge is still constructed perfectly, which means that Rick doesn't have to sacrifice himself, so he stays. And throughout the whole thing, Negan was actually really good. He did good with the work. He didn't lash at anybody. He didn't try to attack. He didn't stop his work or stall it. He actually was a very good help. And he was very nice during the work too. He wasn't giving anybody dirty looks or anything. It's actually quite impressive, especially to Rick, because honestly, he wasn't planning on killing Negan unless he truly did something to, kill them. Because besides killing Abraham and Glenn, to Rick, in this scenario, Negan didn't do anything besides that. And sure, Glenn saved his life, but that's it. Carl didn't die, and it's honestly a better outlook on Negan for Rick's perspective. And since Rick's a man of his word, he goes to the sanctuary where he threw the bat, because before I said he lit the bat on fire, knocked Negan out, and then threw the bat into the window of the sanctuary, breaking the window and crashing to the floor of it. So, he goes to the sanctuary, finds where the bat is, and it's in the same spot. Since all the saviors were dead, nobody's moved it or anything. And it hasn't, even though it's been out in the open, it is far more functionable than the Lucille that we saw in the original Season 10 finale, because unlike that one which was buried, this one's just been sitting out, so it's much different. Negan finally gets the bat, and after, he says a deep, heartfelt thank you, and a heartfelt apology, not just to Rick, but to Rosita, to Maggie, and just to everybody else that he wronged and whose lovers and families that he killed and enslaved. And after that, it's honestly okay. He doesn't use the bat to, bash anybody's heads in, and he just goes as he was. Surprisingly, this was very easy to pull off. Now, I know it's early into the episode, but we're getting into the 6-year time skip, because honestly, with no Rick sacrificing himself, it's not too much else to talk about. So, we're already going to jump in to the 6-year time skip when we get introduced to Yumiko, Magna, Connie, Kelly, and Luke. I could have just said Yumiko's group, but, specification's kind of my thing, sometimes. Anyway, then we get to the scene with Judith, introducing herself to Yumiko's group, but she's not alone. And I haven't done this that much, but this time, she's not alone whenever greeting them. Carl presents himself to their group, along with Rick, Shane, Michonne, and Lori, who aren't too far behind, because they were all in the same area near this time to try and, save anyone, see how other constructions with parts of the communities are doing, stuff like that. And with all of them still around, this would definitely be an occurrence. Now, Eric is still alive, side note, which means that Aaron's character development is much better, especially considering the fact that Negan and the Saviors didn't kill him, and so that means Aaron's not really going to have the hatred for Negan that he did. Now, as for Maggie, speaking of hatred of Negan, something I need to touch base on that's really kind of important that I've missed out on past what ifs. See, in all my other stories, I thought that Maggie truly left with Georgie and Little Herschel to start a new community because of Negan. But the fact is, she had just went to do that and with Herschel to just start a new community. Sure, Negan was part of the reason, but not as much as just wanting to start a new community. So, that means since that option's available in this story, and especially with Negan still around, this means that Maggie's going to go with Georgie to see the new community and meet the Reapers for the first time. So, figured I'd touch base on that and actually correct my mistakes from past videos. Anyways, with that little thing out of the way, we get into the introduction of the Whisperer arc, and Eugene and Rosita at the satellite tower to try and get good reception and reach farther out. And since Spencer and Rosita are a thing, and Spencer's still alive, that actually plays into pretty good effect here, because that means that Eugene most likely would not get hurt. And if he did, it would be a minor bruise compared to the big bruise that he got from falling off of the satellite tower, which I feel that Spencer would catch him, or at least do something to make sure he wouldn't get hurt. Now, all three of them still have to hide in the mud to the introduction of the Whisperers, but even though there's an extra person, that just means that since Eugene's not hurt, they can move faster. And whenever all's said and done, and the introduction to the Whisperers has been made known, you can imagine that even with Spencer there, they're a little bit shaken up, because they weren't expecting evolved walkers, or, that's what they thought at the time, until we actually saw smart walkers in Season 11. But anyways, Spencer's the one to shoot the flare-up, so that way he can give Rosita and Eugene chance to run in case the zombies came back. I could have just said Whisperers, zombies, walkers. It's all the same thing. And just since Spencer's there, he's an extra person to help out in the situation. Jesus, Aaron, and Eric all see it, and like I said, since Eric's still alive, he would be a part of this. Daryl would be the next one to try and help them out, and Spencer, Rosita, and Eugene are all tracked down and brought back to the communities, and they don't have to go out to the cabin this time because Eugene was not hurt. Because with Spencer there, this once again plays into good effect. Now, once Rick and all the other leaders, Shane, Michonne, Lori, all of them, once they hear about this, Rick, even though everyone's back safely, wants to make sure that that this isn't really true, that this problem is dealt with as quickly as possible. Because if these really are evolved walkers, the communities could be in big trouble. So, him, Shane, Michonne, and Lori go with Jesus, Aaron, Eric, and Daryl to the cemetery, or to the location in which Spencer, Rosita, and Eugene were close to see if they're there. Now, another side note. Since Mika is in her kind of adult years, and I've picked Henry to be the one that she actually gets together with because I feel that Benjamin would be too old for her, that means that I feel that Mika would keep Henry out of trouble, which means that he doesn't get locked up in the cell, and when Lydia becomes a thing later on, they're not going to have contact. So that means that Lydia and the whole Henry thing is not going to happen, but that's for a future part. That's just something I figured that I would mention really quick. A little spoiler alert from my next part, or the part after, something like that. Anyways, we then get to the cemetery scene, which still happens, I feel, because this would be close to the place where Spencer, Rosita, and Eugene first saw the Whisperers. Now, I feel that Yumiko and Magna would still come along here, just as extra support, we have all the leaders on hand here, but, you can never be too careful when you're dealing with whisperers or, evolved walkers, because they don't know anything about the whisperers at this point. Now, Jesus does try to stand against them alone and tells everyone to run, but just then, Shane has a thought. Everyone he's been around, everyone who's been with him and who's died, they've all laid down their lives, many for him, especially when he turned on the group multiple times. And seeing Jesus do this reminds him of standing against the saviors, helping out in many occasions, almost getting himself completely killed by Negan with that bloody torture. And he just has had enough. And that Jesus isn't going to be the one to lay down his life. He is. And he'll succeed too. He's not going to let evolved walkers, so it seems, get in the way of what his true family is. And he is shocked himself at actually calling all these people his family. But with every ounce of strength, the limped and worn out, bloody broken Shane climbs over the gates, punches Jesus out of the way, and says he needs to run, and that he's not going to be the one to lay down his life today, and that there is much more to his story that he's not even aware of. And the whole group is just in awe at the strength that Shane is now presenting. With this bloody broken Shane, especially from Negan, they are so surprised that he even got over the walls and even knocked Jesus out of the way. But Shane gets his favorite shotgun and prepares to fight off these supposed evolved walkers. But can Shane, with everything that he's been through, manage to get through this? Or is this finally the end of the road for one of the best characters in The Walking Dead? And that's where we leave things for the moment. I truly hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, because trust me, this is a cliffhanger right here. It definitely shows the character development that Shane's been through, and him constantly fighting with his demons. And now, he's truly accepted everyone here at Alexandria, barring maybe Rick and Michonne, as part of his family. It's finally sunk in. And now, we will see if Shane can actually pull through. And that's where we leave things. See you guys later.